What is going on, everybody? I have been waiting to make this video for an incredibly long time. What is it about this mysterious man that whenever I say his name, a bunch of people get pissed off? Can someone please answer that question for me? Put it in the comments. Why, when I mention Yngwie Malmsteen, does it just piss a bunch of people off? I gotta say, this guy is probably the most polarizing figure in the entire guitar community to ever exist, because it's either you love the guy or you really have so much disdain for him that you don't even put him in the conversation of greatest guitar player, when he's undoubtedly the best ever to do it. Hey, real quick, before I jump into this video, if you're interested in private guitar instruction with yours truly online, my email is in the link in the description below. Just shoot me an email, state your case, and I will get back to you. The lesson slots do tend to fill up pretty quickly. If that happens, I also do have a waiting list. I do have just a couple slots open for the month of August, so I look forward to hearing from you. Also, don't forget to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, free written guitar lesson every month, as well as access to all of my tabs. Link in the description and pinned comment as well. Back to the video. So today, in honor of the performance that I did for Far Beyond the Sun, and also getting the actual Yngwie Malmsteen Strat that I did the review video for, that I'll link it somewhere up here, I'm going to do a breakdown of why Yngwie Malmsteen essentially shits on every guitar player in the world. And we're gonna talk about, well, for one, my argument behind that, which is all in good fun, I must say as well, everybody. I'm trying not to be an elitist as much as possible when it comes to this guy, but honestly, if you can't tell, he is my favorite guitar player, without a doubt, over everybody. Easy, okay? My top three is pretty much Eddie Van Halen, Yngwie Malmsteen, and I'd probably put Jason Becker in there, Eric Johnson, depending on my mood, Steve Ray Vaughan. Those would probably be like the top five. They're kind of interchangeable though at the bottom three for me. So, but to me, Yngwie is undoubtedly my favorite. I only put Eddie above because Eddie got me into guitar first. And you know, he carved the path for all the others after him. So, but Yngwie is my favorite. So today I'm gonna be basically defending Yngwie because every single place I go to, if I even talk about this guy, I get the same comments. And I'm sure if you're a fan of Yngwie, you've probably heard these comments your entire life. He's got no feel, man. Dude, I'd rather listen to David Gilmour all day than listen to someone just shredding the gnar like Yngwie. And to that, you know, I don't want to sound pretentious in saying this, but it's like, I'm gonna be honest, like, you're very much missing a lot of the points. If you say that kind of thing, you've probably never tapped into actually playing Yngwie's music. It's probably been more of a listening experience, and you're not really fully aware of what you're listening to if you're saying that kind of comment. That's just my opinion. Now, I also want to defend David Gilmour, though, and say that he also is undoubtedly one of my favorite guitar players ever. Shine On You Crazy Diamond might be my favorite blues jazz song, like, ever written. And I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. That is truly one of like the most timeless bands I feel in existence, along with the Beatles. So Pink Floyd with David Gilmour, Roger Waters era is undoubtedly some of my favorite music ever. So I just want to get that out of the way before I have this conversation, because I love both guitar players, both have a lot to offer. But there is a reason why Yngwie, in terms of the craft, the instrument, the musicality, everything reigns superior over most guitar players. And a lot of that, it has to do mostly with his playing style. So the first kind of angle to this conversation I'd like to take is, so I'm a Musicians Institute alumni, you could say. Well, not you could say, I am one, but I don't know. Saying that just sounds weird to me, I guess. Berkeley has this kind of shared sentiment as well, I've noticed, with his guitar playing. But basically, if you talk to a lot of the professors, not all of them, but a lot of them at MI, they're going to kind of on Yngwie. They're going to say, oh, Yngwie you know, all he does is just flail a million notes. But if I'm going to be totally real right now, none of those guys could even hang out with Yngwie on stage and jam with him if he actually came and played with y'all. Because Yngwie's playing style is purely improvisational on everything, which is part of the reason why it's so hard to mime his playing. Now, even the cover I did on YouTube, I didn't even play his stuff fully accurate. There was a couple parts in there that I actually did my own thing because I didn't really know what he was playing. Some of it was either hard to hear, or some of it's just so damn hard, it's like, damn, to replicate that at speed is insane, which we'll get into in a minute. But I have not seen anybody actually play his material the same way twice, including himself. And I have never seen anyone cover the song exactly as the recording. I've seen some pretty close ones. I even feel like mine was pretty close, although I'm the first to admit that there's plenty of stuff that I kind of did my own thing for because I had to. Because if I didn't do that, I would have spent like another year or two of my life just nailing those specific licks and then fitting them in the song, and I would have never put out a performance video. Yngwie is one of the few guitar players where it's like you're just going to constantly practice his stuff for the rest of your life. Now, the crazy part about that is he wrote that piece of music when he was 19, and I'm 26, and I still don't have it perfect. So, to me, it's very humbling to look at someone who just naturally plays like this, and everyone studies his art, and no one can ever really hit that stride. People come close. There's a lot of Yngwie copycats out there. Maybe I'm even one of them, honestly. I don't know. I'm not even going to act like I don't take a bunch of his riffs and use them for myself. So, but in the sense, his playing is incredibly difficult to mimic. And unlike, and this is kind of why I think a lot of music professors hate him, it's because he pretty much breaks all the rules for guitar possible. So if you ever look at any of his licks, there's a kind of, well, I can't remember who the YouTuber was, but he kind of coined the term the good boy technique and the bad boy technique, which essentially the good boy technique was if, like, let's say you, I don't know, just played some random economy picking thing. If you were doing like a 3-note per string run, like Yngwie, well, let's actually say the good boy way first. So the good boy way, as he described it, I'm sure I'll try to link him if I can remember who did that. Basically described, you know, if you have 4 fret span, you're going to use all 4 fingers. That's the good boy technique. Well, of course, you got 4 frets. You got to use the proper fingers that fit in the 4 frets. So if I'm economy picking, they all gotta fit, right? Not Yngwie. If it's Yngwie, you're just gonna use 3 fingers. Just like that, okay? I'm not even perfect with that myself. You'll find this a lot with Trilogy Suite, right? Notice that he's just using those 3 fingers, right? There's a reason for this. And I'm going to talk about the caveats, but basically if I was going to categorize 2 great guitar players in these 2 categories, the good boy technique would be favorable to someone like Paul Gilbert. He's very much by the book, still a great player nonetheless, insane stuff, but he definitely is a very symmetrical guitar player, very kind of, I guess, yeah, by the book. He would be the good boy, using the good boy technique, all 4 fingers on 4 frets. And if you ever hear Paul Gilbert talk about Yngwie, he'll straight up tell you Yngwie can play anything. Now, Paul Gilbert is an awesome guitar player, don't get me wrong. He has every right to be somebody's favorite player, by all means. Yngwie, though, would be in the category of the bad boy technique for the very reason that I just described, where he breaks all the rules and just says, okay, well, I got 4 frets, I'm just going to use 3 fingers, like the Trilogy Suite lick, for example. And the reason for that is because of just infinite speed. If you don't have to change your fingering and you're just going up a million strings at a million miles an hour, you don't have to compensate for anything. You're just using the same pattern over and over and over again up all the strings, which is part of the reason why Yngwie's technique and speed is so much faster than literally pretty much anyone. Here's the second reason why he can achieve so much speed and is a very non-traditional guitar player. So if you notice, his pick hand is always a downward pick slant, right? Pointed right directly at his face. That's what we call the downward pick slant. Never changes it. You'll never see Yngwie do the Frank Gambale economy picking thing backwards. You'll only ever see him economy pick forward on ascending patterns. So what is he doing to get that gnarly sound when he's going backwards on these licks? Well, let me go back to the Trilogy Suite lick and play it slow. So here this is economy picked. My hand never changes. But what did I do when I came backwards? I only picked even amounts of notes, okay? So basically, if I have an uneven amount of notes, being that this was 5 notes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull off, 1, 2, 3, pull off, 1, 2, 3, pull off, 1, 2, 3, pull off, ending, oh look, I'm back in position to go back again. You heard it here first if you've never heard it before. Yngwie doesn't pick all the notes. That's the other reason why his speed is so insane. Why does it sound like he is picking all the notes? Well, part of it is because he's just playing them so damn fast. The second part of that is he has so much distortion on his amp with the Marshalls that he uses cranked up with such high gain, and he picks it so light. Like, I probably didn't even do it justice, you know, just now with the picking, because you could hear my pull-offs on it. But he picks it so light that you can't hear him doing the pull-offs. It sounds the same. It gets clustered up. And that's kind of the goal of his playing. That's purposeful for him. He wants it to sound like a cluster of notes and not so precise, unlike Paul Gilbert with the good boy technique. Very clean, precise player. Yngwie is really more of, he's definitely not sloppy, but definitely more of loose with his feel, I guess I would say, like, which is part of the reason why it's so hard to get it as accurate as someone like Paul Gilbert. So before I end this point here with Yngwie's stylistic choices, let's look at a couple other guys that also do this actual picking style, because he's not really the only one, although I believe he did kind of, you know, stumble upon it on his own. But it actually comes from gypsy jazz primarily. Reinhardt would have been the guitar player before Yngwie, basically, that kind of invented this style of playing, if you will, which is where you keep the downward pick slant and never change it. So if you have to go backwards, you just do the pull-off thing instead of flipping your angle in economy picking. Now, there's not really a right or wrong way when it comes to techniques. Now, I personally use both, although every time I study deeper into Yngwie's playing, I can understand why he does it that way. And it always makes more sense to me, because you never have any strain on your wrist at all if you don't have to change the pick slant. Because even if I'm economy picking, as seamless as that is to flip the slant and go backwards and pick all the notes, you still are slowing yourself down by just a tiny millisecond versus if you never have to change the angle at all. Now, there's a lot of other licks that Yngwie has as well that use this similar thing, being the super fast part on Far Beyond the Sun. I'll play it slow so you can understand what it is. Okay, so that's like the crazy fast part. Now, a lot of people think it's just him walking down a scale. But that wouldn't be possible with his style of playing because you would have to economy pick. Notice here when I played it, I had to flip my pick angle. Well, look at this. When I don't do that, this is how he does it. Never flip the pick angle. And that's also how he gets so relaxed. Now he has a lot of licks like that, where instead of playing the scale in descending thirds, he'll kind of do these interesting nuances like I just showed. Another one would be this one right here in the solo of Far Beyond the Sun, which is essentially picked exactly the same way. And then you go. So it's all that same exact picking style of playing. Super common, super common. Yngwie does a lot of this stuff, and that's how he basically gets the speed of all these licks that you're looking for. But now let's take a break from just the picking style alone and the fretting style, but let's actually look at his music itself, because a lot of people are going to say, dude, and this is where you get the music professor thing a lot of the time, where it's like, dude, all he does is just play Phrygian dominant and harmonic minor all the time. Part of that is kind of true, but what is he emulating? Well, it's all Baroque period music, right? So Paganini, Bach, Vivaldi, things in that realm. What did they use a lot of in their orchestrations? It was a lot of harmonic minor stuff. Now Bach had a little bit more nuance, I feel, than Paganini and Vivaldi in terms of that stuff, but they still essentially dabbled with a lot of the harmonic minor, Phrygian dominant. I don't even think they called it that back then, but that's what we call it now, essentially, with the contemporary music theory. So a lot of these things revolve around the study of counterpoint. So if you ever look at this book right here, The Study of Counterpoint by Johann Joseph Foe, this is like basically the blueprint for how to write counterpoint in primarily what became Baroque music. Now he was kind of before that era just slightly, and also preceded Bach. This guy was basically Bach's teacher. Everything in this book is quite literally how to make basically Baroque music, because a lot of this stuff changed in the Romantic era of, you know, what we would call classical music, I suppose. But this is the blueprint. This is how you do it. This is basically what Yngwie follows in a sense, whether he knows it or not. Because there's a lot of stuff that Yngwie does. I don't think he really knows he's doing it. Like he'll say stuff like, this song is in G major, but it's actually in E minor, right? Stuff like that. So his music very much actually kind of follows the traditions of Bach, Paganini, Vivaldi, etc., just with a modern production on it. Basically, you just have drums, bass, guitar, keyboard instead of a full symphony, is basically what's happening. Now, I did another video called I Hate Shred Guitar Players, link right here if you want to watch it, where I actually broke down his musical compositions and slowed them down. I'm not going to do that in this video because Yngwie unfortunately copyrights me. Whatever, I'm not even gonna, it's fine. That's why I'm playing his licks and not just showing you him playing them, because I don't want to get copyrighted. But basically, I slowed down his music, and actually when you slow it down, it very much is reminiscent of actually like a Bach piece. And when you speed it up, obviously it sounds like Yngwie, but it's the same concept, it's all he's doing. Now if you wanted to really just talk about someone with an identical tendency as Yngwie, Paganini would be pretty much the best example, who was just an insane violin virtuoso. Played everything about 10,000 miles an hour, just like Yngwie did, with the same concept of counterpoint and everything else. amazing music. If you know, personally, my favorite Paganini piece is the Violin Concerto in D major. So a lot of people, crap on his music because they think that he's just playing really fast just to play fast, but the truth of the matter is that his music is very well thought out, especially his first 3 albums, I would say. I'm personally a fan of Yngwie's instrumental music more than the stuff with the singing in it. You know, the true neoclassical stuff. But he followed a lot of these traditions of Baroque music and classical music almost to a T on a lot of extents. So to me, a lot of people that hate on his actual compositions really don't understand what they're saying, in my opinion. Now, for my third point of this video, let's talk about actually the feel portion of Yngwie, and then I'll talk about his innovation of the instrument itself. So a lot of people will still comment, regardless of my point of his composition, that he's got no feel, man. Well, my only rebuttal to that really that is needed is just go look up Yngwie Malmsteen playing Red House by Jimi Hendrix. If that isn't the best damn blues improv playing you've ever heard in your life, then I don't even know if you know what blues sounds like. Because to me, one of the most inspiring things I ever heard him do is that performance of Red House. It's as clean, if not cleaner, than Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, seriously. Stevie Ray is like in my top 5, as I said at the beginning of this video. Favorite blues player easily is Stevie Ray Vaughan. But Yngwie, he might even be my favorite blues player, in a sense. It is not possible that this man does not have perfect pitch. His bends are absolutely insane. I don't know, you know, I see a lot of great blues musicians out there, but man, I've never heard anyone play the blues like Yngwie, truthfully. I mean, that guy is a true scholar of blues music. If you listen to that recording, you can just tell that he's put as much, if not maybe even more time, into blues as much as neoclassical. So, you know, he's more than a one-trick pony, really. He could truly play anything, in my opinion. And again, I'm not going to play that video because I don't want to get copyright. But yes. His blues playing is also absolutely amazing. And how are you going to tell me that you can't feel the soul of that guy playing that? Even if it has more notes than your average blues player, you can't tell me that there's no feel in his playing. The guy loves guitar. Let's talk about the fourth and final point of this video, which is his innovation of the instrument. So like those that preceded him, being Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen, who I would argue are in the top 3 most influential guitar players, Yngwie would be basically number 3 in the slot of most influential guitar players. You pick the rest, because to me, Yngwie finally took the final throw that was needed for electric guitar to innovate it to its maximum extent. Jimi Hendrix really was more experimental with the sound of the guitar itself, the higher gain playing, kind of the nastier tones, if you will, a lot of licks that people really hadn't fathomed before. Also playing a Strat. Look at that. Who else decided to play a Strat? Eddie Van Halen. Don't fix what's not broken. Although they did fix it. But now it's not broken, I guess would be a better way to put it. Eddie Van Halen then would go to make the Super Strat, essentially, getting fed up with the single coil sound and wanting more beefy tone out of his Marshalls, and then eventually also wanting better tuning stability for all the dive bombs that he was doing with the whammy bar. Obviously, his playing alone was iconic and unique. Enough said with that, I don't even need to elaborate. But Yngwie basically innovated it one step further, keeping the original design of the Strat, still figuring out how to, later on, because I think originally he was actually using real single coils and just doing things to make them not hum as badly as normal. You know, but basically recognizing the fact that single coils would give him that almost violin-esque sound that he was going for, as well as kind of a pure sound. But then also stumbling across the fact that there's something missing to this instrument. It's the fact that when you press on these frets, that your finger gets like pushed off of them because of the wood. So the idea of a fret, in a sense, kind of is a scallop, right? Which obviously Ritchie Blackmore actually did scallops before Yngwie. But Yngwie basically took the scallops to the next level by doing deeper scallops, more extreme scallops across the entire guitar. And what this allowed for was seamless playing ability, which basically means that your fingers no longer get stuck on the wood, right? If you got wood here, the wood is actually friction against your fingers, as subtle as it might be. While not every guitar player obviously is using scallops, those that choose to dabble in the scallops will find that it's almost as if your hand is floating across the fretboard with zero effort that needs to be put in. You can actually feel the frets much better this way, and you can play a lot smoother and not have to press at all. And it basically, I mean, it actually makes you have better technique. The innovation of his own instrument perfected his playing style and technique on top of it. A lot of people think Yngwie is a gimmick player for all of the reasons I just mentioned, being that his speed, his Baroque era sound, and the scallop fretboard. To me, it actually is telling of somebody who just finally got it right. Call it a gimmick if you'd like. More times than not, the majority has been wrong. To me, Yngwie Malmsteen actually cracked the code to electric guitar and figured out all the holes that were missing in the instrument itself, as well as the technique and playing style that for those who choose to dabble in his studies will find it very fruitful for their own playing for the rest of their life, essentially. Now, everyone's gonna have their own tastes. I'm not saying that your favorite guitar player has to be Yngwie Malmsteen, but I think the proper respect is deserved to put him essentially on the Mount Rushmore of all the great guitar players, and preferably at least in the top 3, if not the #1 slot. I'm biased. With that being said, I realize that this video is gonna rub people the wrong way. That's okay. Even if it does do that, leave your comment below and let me know what you think. Sign up for the free monthly newsletter. If you want lessons, email me, link in the description below, and I'll see you on the next one.